we don't need just psychics being psychics. We need politicians, and we need teachers, and we need business people, and we need mothers and fathers to have these abilities, because that's what drives our evolution, you know?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Lovely. Welcome back to my channel, The Lovely Life. So, in case you're tuning in for the first time, this channel is all about everything spiritual. You know, we share everything spiritual here, our journeys of how we got into spirituality. I bring in beings from the other side. But today I have a guest who is in physical. So he's here and he'll be sharing his beautiful spiritual awakening story with you. So we have Jeffery Bomberger here. I hope I'm not pronouncing your name wrong. And he's an intuitive. He's an intuitive guide, and he's also into spiritual coaching. He's also an author. He has 2 books. One is out already. It's available on Barnes and Noble and also on Amazon. The book is Awakening Soul Force, right? And other one is coming up next month, if I'm not wrong, Jeff?
Yeah, in January it'll be ready.
Yes, and the name is really interesting, Be Still and Listen. So he's into teaching a lot of meditation and how to, use meditation as a tool to channel, or rather use meditation as a tool to tap into everything that's beyond our senses, and use it to evolve into higher dimensions and grow your spiritual gifts and intuition specifically. So welcome to my channel, Jeff.
Thank you, Lovely. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here to hang out with you.
All right. So, and for the viewers, we met on Instagram. He was doing this beautiful live reading, and the best part about how he reads is he's quite sensitive. He feels energy, and it's almost like whoever is sitting in front of him, he feels what's going on in the life of others in his body. So he's very much what's a Claire that says a clairsentient, or
Yep.
So that's what I liked about him. So, and yes, we were supposed to exchange readings because I had offered you. That's still yet to come. But yeah. Anyway, today let's learn how this all began. And also for the viewers, it all began when he was just a little boy, 12-year-old boy. He went to a psychic medium, and that was the beginning of his amazing spiritual journey. I bet you didn't even know the word spiritual by then.
Not quite. I didn't know what I was getting into.
Yes,
no.
What it exactly meant. And then his journey led to a lot of things. He figured out stuff, grew eventually. Now he's into teaching, and he also does workshop. Yes. So that's his story.
That's right.
All right. So I know, a lot of us who are into this spiritual space, Jeff, most of us, we have interesting childhoods. I wouldn't use the word difficult, but yes, we do have interesting childhoods, because there's a lot to learn there, which leads to other things, and then which leads to we figuring out the answers, right? So how was your childhood like, if you would like to share?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm very fortunate, and that's one of the first things I have to credit my family and my folks, my mom and dad. Really were great and present parents. I grew up in a very loving household. My childhood was interesting in the sense that I actually got into I was a child actor, so I got into acting on television when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old. So and it's something that I wanted to do, which is the fun part. Is I heard a thing on the radio, and I told my mom I want to go do that, and she talked about it with my dad, and they're like, all right, sure. So they took my sister and I to this thing, and we kind of were scouted or whatever, and had an agent and a manager. But it was interesting in that it kind of caused, it kind of forces you to grow up kind of fast, right? I
Yes.
mean, I think I was 7 years old when I was on a TV show on a major network, and we only ran for a season, but you go to work every day and you got to know your lines, and you're interacting with adults all day.
Yes. And you have
and
school.
and you got to do school at the same time, and then
Yeah.
Friday nights are the nights that you shoot in front of a live audience. And then afterwards there's people and they want autographs. It's a very interesting experience to have as a kid.
Mhm.
At a certain point I was like, I just want to like be a normal kid and play baseball and sports.
Yeah.
And my parents let me make that decision when I was ready to be done with it. So they let me choose to get into it, and they let me choose to get out of it. And I think that
That's very
that
cool.
alone was a really I'm gonna have to credit my parents for like all of it. They
Yeah.
just provided a safe container to be a human. So
Oh, yeah.
um,
So no
you know,
wonder, if I've heard your story right, your dad took you to the psychic medium for, just a fun, oh, let's go do this for a reading. If I'm not wrong, it was a tarot reading. What was it? And what happened? I'll be really interested to know.
yeah. So it was, yeah, my dad took me to get a reading. We were in between, I was playing in a flag football tournament, and we were in between games, and we were just looking for something to do. And we stopped by out here. There's this a chain of stores called the Psychic Eye, and it was a Psychic Eye that we went to. And yeah, we went in and we read with somebody, and my dad had a reading, I had a reading. And the funny part about it was that the woman told me, this always stuck out in my mind. She told me that when I looked into the future, I saw myself as a Ram, as in the Los Angeles Rams of the professional football team here. She says,
Okay.
but you're going to be a healer. And at the time, I didn't know what that meant. In fact, I thought, I was like, oh, maybe I'm going to like get into medicine. Maybe I'll become like a doctor. Eventually I became a personal trainer. So I was into fitness and health and wellness, which I
Mhm.
guess all fits, but it wasn't until I think all this really woke up for me, all this, the intuitive ability, and then being asked to step into a role where you're not only reading for others, but teaching people too how to get in touch with this part of themselves, that I realized, oh, I think this is what she saw all those years
Yeah.
ago,
Aha
over 20
moment.
years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Interesting. So when was this? So that's when it, that, small bulb lit. Okay, maybe there's a spiritual side, that maybe that's something that I should be. But obviously you didn't focus on it. You cannot do much about it, explore about it as a 12-year-old boy, right? So
Yeah.
it would have actually happened, tangibly later in your life, if I'm not wrong.
So yeah, I mean, it was just, that was my first like introduction to it. And it's just that, my mom and dad were both very spiritually open.
Mhm.
They were curious. My dad has lots of dreams that he was,
Oh,
turned on to and wanting to interpret. My mom also has dream stuff, and they're more mediumship type dreams. Like she'll definitely get dreams from of people that have crossed over that might come and visit.
oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, but it was never like, it was never a thing. My parents don't do like what I'm doing now. It was
Yeah.
just kind of like
Professionally.
in, yeah, it was just kind of like on the periphery, and it's part of, I guess it was just part of life. And I think it was just kind of being exposed to that. I found John Edwards' Unleashing Your Psychic Potential tape. My parents had a cassette tape, and I listened to that when I was a teenager. And that's when I found meditation, and that's when I found how you can meet your guides. And I wanted to meditate because I wanted to kind of like work with the visualizations and reduce a little bit of like the anxiousness, of being in school and playing sports and stuff. But really, I found that whole experience of getting quiet and meeting with your guides, I found that you can get answers, if you ask questions. And so that was when I first started to engage with it. And it wasn't until later, about 10 years ago, where it became like a daily practice. It was something that I used to do only when I was confused,
Yes.
or I was
Yeah.
upset,
When you need answers. When you need it.
right.
Yes.
Right. That's when I would decide to sit down and do it.
Yeah.
And obviously most teenagers, most young adults aren't doing that. It was something that at least I found early enough that it was something that I would turn to in moments that I needed to. But it was about 10 years ago where I really got into studying the chakras and working with the chakras. And it was actually another reading by an Akashic team. They call themselves the Akashic team, that told me you have a lot of really latent psychic potential that wants to be expressed, and you're actually meant to be teaching us about this stuff. Like, we should be learning stuff from you. And I was like, what are you talking about? and then once I got into the work and I started working with my chakras several times a day and really understanding, I just started to really open up and unfold things. And it wasn't until a few years ago that I really got called then to share what I had discovered and learned with other people.
Yes. So when did you actually discover that you had gifts? Was it like a movement, or like, so did you write? I think you wrote, right? Did you do a little bit of automatic writing, or what was the tool initially?
Yes.
Or you can call it a clair. Yeah.
Yeah. The initial tool was automatic writing. It was clairaudience. I was also very visual, so I started to have a lot of psychic dreams when I was a teenager. I was in high school and I started to have psychic dreams about world events that were going on, stuff that I didn't know about, stuff that I would find out about on the news or whatever, like days later. And that was an interesting experience. But it was the automatic writing. And the thing is that really, I kind of had chalked this whole thing up to, I always believed in psychics. I had a spiritual practice. I very much a student of the teachings of Jesus, the Buddha, the studying nonviolence and the philosophy of nonviolence, like Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence. So there's like a lot of spiritual and philosophical stuff there. But at the end of the day, I was like, maybe I'm just making it up in my head when I do this.
Oh, that's always
right.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So
even now, believing and the questioning, but somewhere it's necessary for growth, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So what would you call, what is your strongest clair? I know that you have, I wouldn't, it's okay even if you don't call it a clair, but what gives you information? What's the major tool that you use now to receive information?
Well, right. It seems that it's evolved much more into clairsentience and claircognizance, so clear knowing and clear feeling. I am very visual. I'm very clairaudient, and so the thing is, though, is it's evolved. The clairvoyance and the clairaudience was really strong in the beginnings when I started to write or started to channel for other people or get information for them. But then eventually it moved into my body, and like you were talking about, you mentioned, it started to become like chakra centers would light up. And so I kind of knew what part of life I was looking at. And then I would ask follow-up questions and then I would get a little more information about it. So it's really evolved to like a little bit of like all of them, but it's very much in my body and a lot more clear knowing now, because sometimes I just saying stuff that's there.
So you mean when you said about the chakras lighting up, so you receive information almost like, for example, sacral chakra, if I'm not wrong, it's all about like survival for a person. What is it? And I know there's more. So that's how you receive information, like, okay, this chakra is blocked, or you feel it in your body. That's how you do it?
Yeah. So my attention will get drawn to like an energy center a lot of times. So it'll be, I might get drawn to like the root, I might feel like at the base of my spine, I feel my attention gets drawn there. And then I say, okay,
the person
we're in the root
in front of you that you're perceiving.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then I'll ask, okay, so what's going on here? And then at that point, I might hear a word, I might get a feeling, I might see something, I might see in my mind, something, snapshot, or I might just get a sense. I might feel like grief, so I might actually feel like an emotion if I ask, disappointment, so it really is this interesting puzzle piece that happens, but it allows me the chakra part of it and like the stuff in my body. Because it's not just the chakras, I'll get stuff in different parts of my body that mean different things. And that's just my own thing, like language I've developed.
Yes.
But there's kind of like these universal sort of symbols that come through where when I feel something, I know that spirit is conveying that this is present. For example, when I feel stuff on my shoulders, I used to play football, so I used to wear shoulder pads. And sometimes I feel like if somebody was pushing down on my shoulder pads, a strange sensation that's really just unique to me, right?
Yes.
um,
Very
but if I feel
personal, but
somebody
you
do
get it. Yes.
right, so when I feel that on my left shoulder, this is somebody who on, you know, in a feminine way is taking on a lot of burdens. If I feel it on my right side, it's someone in a very masculine way taking on a lot of burdens. And so those are some ways in which energy will come through, and I'm kind of tapping into what somebody's moving through. And then once I get that, it's not just about telling people what's going on for you. It's like, well, what's the guidance, right? How do I relieve some of this burden? What's the healing that wants to take place? And I'll ask that question, then spirit will then bring through information about, well, how do we move this energy? How do we step out of this cycle so that we can alleviate that and just come more into balance, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So also, and I do understand what exactly you are saying, because eventually it's a combination of all the clairs to
Right.
that, and it's always personal. For instance, like numbers, when we see numbers, which is very common after you are in alignment, you know, 1111 or all those numbers. So my guides always tell me, you know, look it up. So I'm like, yeah, right. You know, SEO, Google's gonna search. So why should I be doing that? But then my guides tell me, no, but there'll be, you know, out of all the searches that you find on Google, you would end up reading one that resonates with you. So I do understand what exactly you're saying. So it's everything, and also that personally what feels right. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You can't discount sort of the subjective aspect of this, you know, and that's why I think it's so interesting for people, why I feel called to teach people about how to do this for themselves, because it's great that I can do what I do, but it's only going to be so accurate because I'm only so good of a translator. You know, I only have a certain library of information that I can pull from in my human experience that maybe is connecting with what's going on. And so I really encourage people to find this meditative stillness for themselves, and to learn how to soften themselves up and be sensitive to what's coming in and coming up, because we all have this ability in us, you know. I've spent a long time training it, and now it's matured, but it's just like a plant, just got to water it.
And you've been lucky that you were in an environment which was spiritual, you know, in the sense of it, and your parents were open.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out there who are still figuring out stuff and who do not know what to do, even the gifted ones, who do not know what to do with all the information that they're getting, and also how to calm the monkey mind, which is meant for everybody. You know, you need not actually be like spiritual. Everybody needs meditation, right?
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
So if you have a quick meditation that you would want to share with everyone who's watching, that you would do on a busy day to calm your mind, to get quiet.
Like a basic one. Yeah, my favorite basic ones are just a simple conscious breathing technique, and then a simple rhythmic breathing technique. And the conscious breathing is as basic as it gets. It's just closing our eyes, getting quiet, and just being aware of your breath and focusing on your breathing. And as you breathe in, just becoming aware that your chest is expanding when you breathe in, and when you breathe out, you just feel it relax, and just try to connect to that for a little while. No pressure. Like, it doesn't have to be hours. Just if it's a minute, great, you know, because part of meditation is about the focus, you know, and being able to bring your attention to like a single point of focus. And that allows like things to relax. And that's when we get out of our mind. So the breath, I think, is not only just an essential part of our life, but it's a simple thing to just really tune into. So that's like always my first one. And the second one I introduce people to is rhythmic breathing, is when we then learn how to connect to our breath, and we can use that. Then just going like a layer deeper and connecting to the heart, and then following that rhythm. And I teach just a really simple sort of, you know, kind of like a 6 count inhale to 6 beats of your heart, hold that breath for 3 beats, and then release for a count of 6, hold it for 3, and just repeat that. So it allows us, again, we're focused on our heart. We are counting, so that's where our focus is, you know. But again, it streamlines where our mind can go, and then ultimately, again, it's connecting us to this very essential pump in our chest that
Yes.
allows us to go, to live, you know, and it's our life-giving force. So those are the two basic ones that I like to encourage people to learn, because if we can get conscious of our breathing, we become conscious of our heart, then that step into mindfulness and becoming aware of other parts of our body and other sensations becomes a little easier, because we've already kind of done the basics of learning how to tune our awareness into these very fundamental parts of our life, you know.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned, you know, even if it's for a minute, it's good, because that's something that I, you know, tell a lot of people, because they think, you know, we don't have time for meditation. I cannot just sit for an hour and do that. And I always say,
Right.
you don't need an hour, right?
Right.
So yes, but even that 1 minute of that awareness helps.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, nobody knows. And yeah, using breath as a tool, right? Just how you can use also mantra. So
Mm-hmm.
you can use the breath as a tool, and almost then later you can use it as a gateway to other dimensions and things like that.
Right.
Things like that, if you're interested, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's just the foundation. So that's why,
Yes.
I mean, it's funny because I wrote about it. I put it in, you know, the first book, Awakening Soul Force, is like a lot of, it's kind of like my sample platter of spirituality. It's like all the different little things and tools that really resonated for me, and stuff that really helped me open up and
Yes.
feel more connected to myself and to the world around me. And that conscious breathing and the rhythmic breathing are right there at the top as
Yeah.
the foundations of that, because like you're saying, to me, it is a gateway into all sorts of other modalities and practices that can really
Yes.
open us up to new dimensions of ourselves and consciousness and the world around us. So yeah, it's a good thing to sort of master if we can.
Absolutely, because you know, a lot of people tell me, should we learn Reiki? You know, in my readings, I'm
Yeah.
like, you need not become. It's not necessary that you would end up becoming a Reiki master. But for me, you know, the Reiki one, when I did that, that's when I first felt where my crown chakra was. So
Yeah.
I mean, I do use Reiki for healing, but I did not become a
Mm-hmm.
Reiki master. But it's almost like, you know, one thing leads to another, and nothing goes
Yeah.
waste. Nothing goes waste.
No.
Yes. So
I
that's
agree with you. And I appreciate too you sharing that experience, because another thing that I try to emphasize to people is I did not get into this work to like be psychic. That was not my intention. I was interested in like intuitive abilities, and I was interested in,
yeah.
but I didn't want to be a psychic, you know, and I didn't want to change the world or something being a psychic. I didn't think it was going to be a superpower. I was interested in the development of the self. You know, I was interested in, how does this make me a better person? How am I a kinder, more loving person in the world? And all this stuff unlocked as a result of pursuing it.
Mhm.
And now I'm called to share, but I really want to encourage people, like, just remember that we're all called to show up in this world as a loving being in whatever way we're being called to do it. And you don't have to be a psychic to change the world with being a loving person. It doesn't matter what you do.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. Yes.
and these things serve us in all the ways. We don't need just psychics being psychics. We need politicians, and we need teachers, and we need business
Mhm.
people, and we need mothers and fathers to have these abilities, because that's what drives our evolution, you know.
Yes, and absolutely, that's so true. Because when people ask me, you know, what's the purpose of my life? I'm like, no, that includes everything. You know, you are a wife, a mom, a daughter. So that's just
Right.
not you being a teacher, or you would end up becoming a healer. But
Mhm.
you know, it's the amalgamation of everything that you're doing on this earth plane, in this life. That's your
Yeah.
purpose. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's beautiful, right? And also, when you were mentioning your stories, my guides were almost laughing at me. You know
Oh
why?
yeah.
Because you were
Why
like,
is that?
you know, because you were talking about self growth and all that, and I really suck at that, because I'm like, more lessons. But you know, it goes on. You know, you have these spiritual lessons,
Yeah.
and that makes me ask you, what was your strongest spiritual lesson in life? I mean, if you have any that you were not prepared, and then later you realize, oh, maybe this was a spiritual lesson and which changed you in the course of your journey.
Oh yeah.
Something like that you would like to share?
Yes. Oh, sure. My biggest spiritual lesson was I was in a relationship where I feel like I pretty much almost lost myself in all the ways. I had made I'm a Pisces, so martyrdom is my second nature. And I was in a dynamic that was not healthy for me. It was and I got to the point where like I wasn't dreaming anymore, which is not normal for me. I was very cut off, I think, from myself. I really lost myself, and it was exhausting. I was depressed. There was all kinds of stuff going on. And later on, when I had learned more about the chakras and stuff, I was like, oh, that's what those things were. I started to recognize the symptoms of certain blockages or energy centers that were out of balance. And that really was the major turning point, because I came out of that and I said, I will never, ever, ever again compromise myself in that way, to that degree. So that's when I made meditation and my workout, my health, my fitness, my wellness, and my spiritual integrity became number one. That no matter who or what came into my life, those things were always going to be first. And that was kind of a challenging commitment, because that also meant I was going to put my meditation practice and my spiritual growth before what was financially maybe the best, financial or career decision.
Yeah, maybe the current yes.
Yeah. So that did change my life, because I said, I'm not putting anything above my spiritual growth. This is going to be my foundation. And that's when things really rapidly shifted and changed for me. And that's probably why I'm at where I'm at now. I think my friends and people that have known me would say, oh yeah, Jeff was always kind of like into spiritual woo-woo stuff. He was meditating. He was, thinking he was writing, channeling stuff. But it was that time about 10, 11 years ago, I think, that it was like, no, this is kind of, spirit comes first, and everything else has to follow after that.
Yeah. And yes, for someone who's actually thinking, so to become, in case there's somebody in the viewers who's thinking, okay, so attain a certain spiritual learning, do you have to sacrifice the physical life that we have in relationships? But I'm just going to tell them, because I got exactly what you said. It's not it's about self-love. It's about things that you do for joy, that gives you joy. And obviously meditation and teaching and spiritual growth was your joy. That was something that you looked forward to, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I think we have covered most of it, and I'm not going to take much of your time.
Oh, it's okay. This has been lovely. Well, no, it's been great. You're lovely.
It is lovely.
It's always been the time.
Yes. Everybody asks me, is that actually your name? I'm like, yes, it is. So, okay, before we close, Jeff, what is that one, you can call it an advice or a message that you would, something that you would give anyone who's on their spiritual journey, and who think, it's all like fun and whatever's on your mind, you can, for the viewers, what is that message from your experience?
Yeah, I think my message is spend time, if you can, connecting to God's loving wisdom, to divine intelligence. Get familiar with that vibration and that non-judgmental awareness, because life is going to be a total roller coaster. It's going to be up, it's going to be down, it's going to be joyful, expansive, and exciting. We're going to experience contractions and depressions and grief and hard times. And I just have found that because of this spiritual practice, for me, I'm kinder to myself, because I spend more time in that space, in a space where spirit is loving on us. in ways that humanly we're not always that used to, you know. There aren't, so I love, and that's why I do what I do now, is I just encourage people to find and get into that space, because it is going to change the way we view ourselves, and it's going to change the way we view other people. And it's just like, to me, it's been the most rewarding and just a satisfying experience, you know. But it's made it's softened me up towards myself and everything, you know, the whole world. So don't be afraid to get in that silent space and connect to that non-judgmental, loving awareness, and spend a lot of time with that like a friend, because that'll rub off on you over time, you know.
Yes. And it's also, I think, you know, coming out of your comfort zone, you know, just people who are worrying, you know, what's out there, or, you know, there could be negatives and all those things. You never know until you try, or, you know, so I do get, I'm like seriously amazed at everything that you're doing. For everybody who would like to reach you for workshops or to learn, you know, how to improve their intuitive abilities. So what's your website? Could you please share it for the viewers, please?
Yeah, you can visit thesoulforce.com.
Okay.
Thesoulforce.com has information on it about the book. You can sign up for a mailing list. It's very simple. I'd only do like one email a month, maybe. I don't go crazy on the mailing list, but that's when I'll let people know about, you know, I'm going to be in a new city every month, you know, doing workshops around the country here in the United States. So that's, you can find info on that. And then you can find me on Instagram at the Bomberger. I'm most active on there. So if you do and then my last name, you'll find me on there, and you know, maybe we'll cross paths. Like we did. We got so lucky.
Oh, it's Bomberger then. I'm sorry if I missed it.
Oh no, it's okay.
Okay.
It's totally okay. No worries.
All right. So it was so much fun talking to you, Jeff. And
thank you.
All right. I'll check out your new book, Be Still and Listen. And I will also be putting Jeff's website on the description. Go check it out. And until next time we meet, bye-bye.
Thank you.